Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this episode, my mom is just gonna be making almond cake with cocomelon team, plus with cupcakes too. I hope you enjoy and
this into 250 degrees to 250 degrees. Okay? And then, okay, let's go ahead. Okay, let's start by separating the egg yolks and egg whites. A tip of separating egg yolks and egg white is you have to use a small bowl so that if in case there is any problem of the egg yolk, sometimes the egg yolks are broken, it doesn't mix everything and you have to start all over again. So start it one by one, eggs one by one, break one by one, and you put them in separate bowls. Okay, you can add a cup of sugar to the eggs and then start beating with hand mixer or with a stand mixer. I use hand mixer because this stand mixer I'm going to use later on with the egg whites, because you should have a clean beater when you're going to beat the egg whites. Okay, you need to beat the egg yolk and the white sugar until it is become light color and it's runny, but you have to make sure that you have to use spatula and keep on cleaning the sides of the bowl so everything will be incorporated. It should mix well. This is how the texture it should be, and then you can stop beating and add the next ingredients. Take 2 oranges, and if you can see my orange that I use, they're quite big, but if you're using small, then you have to use 3 oranges. You have to take the zest of the orange and then you can mix with the butter. Next, measure 3 cups of almond powder, but when you're measuring, it should be level. It should not be over or less. In that way, you can get the correct texture that you're looking for of the cake. And then, with the almond powder, take half teaspoon of baking powder. Usually some of the bakers, they don't use baking powder with almonds, but I use it because with my experience it gives a little bit puff of the cake and it gives a good texture. So only half teaspoon, don't put a lot because almond cake is actually a stable cake. Make sure to mix properly the almond powder and the baking powder before adding to the batter. Add the almond powder with the baking powder to the batter, and then make sure that you mix them properly with the batter until it is incorporated. Don't overmix, but make sure that they are mixed well. Cover the batter with cling wrap or with a wet cloth while you are preparing your egg white. Next, let's prepare the egg whites. Make sure that your bowl is clean, there is no grease, there is no dirt, because you know that can create a problem with the egg whites. Next, we have to beat the egg whites. If you're using the same stand mixer which you use with the batter of the egg yolks, you make sure that you have to clean properly. Make sure there's no oil in there. You can also use vinegar to wipe them, or if you have a separate stand mixer or another mixer, you can use that to make sure that your egg whites comes out properly. You can check your egg whites if it's already properly mixed by putting your bowl upside down. If it doesn't move, so that means that is the correct consistency. Mix a small quantity of your meringue, the egg whites, to your butter. Make sure that you have to mix properly, and then start mixing little by little until you finish mixing them well and it's properly incorporated. Next, prepare your pans. See, I'm using a very thin baking pans. They are 8 inches, but they are ½ inch height. The reason why I'm using this one is because it is easier for me to layer them without cutting the cake. You can also use the tall pan, but it is not easy to cut. That's the reason why I am using this pan, so I can layer them accordingly. You can butter them, put the butter on it, and put the parchment paper in the middle. I use round parchment paper so the cake doesn't stick on the pan and it's easy to remove. Divide your butter equally to the pans that you have prepared. I prepared actually 4, but I think I'll be using only 3. I prepared 4 because in case I will be needing it. But as per the recipe, it should be 3 only. So the reason why you have to divide them equally, so when you are layering them, it is actually properly layered. Sprinkle the chopped almond on top of the butter. You can put as much as you want. If you don't want it, it's okay. I like it a lot because it gives an added texture when you are biting the cake, and it tastes as well, it tastes much better. Bake for 20 minutes if you use the same pan of mine because it's very thin, but if you use a deeper pan, then you have to bake for 30 minutes. Okay, here we go. The cake is ready, and you make sure that you have to put the cake on the racks to cool down for at least 15 minutes before removing them from the pan. By the way, this is the example of the egg that when I broke it, it is actually together with the yellows. It is very important that you always use a separate bowl for breaking the egg. I use parchment paper to store the cake, so it is not difficult for me to move the cakes here and there because they are stable cake and so they're easy to break. But for the normal cake like moist cake, it's okay not to use the parchment paper. Again, if you can see, the cake is very thin and it's exactly for layering, and then it is easier for us to layer them. Guys, if you can see, this cake is actually lighter. This is the perfect time of baking. I overbaked the 2 because they are at the bottom of the layer of the oven, and this lighter one is on top, so I bake it for 25 minutes by mistake. So it is very important that if you are using one layer only, you have to use only 20 minutes, or you have to keep on eye until the toothpick it goes in without anything when you pull it out. Put in the fridge for sometime maybe 6 hours or maybe 3 hours if you don't have enough time, as long as the cake cool down properly. Thank you guys. See you with our next video. Say bye.
Wow.
Yeah, bye.
Great.
But if you say it on TikTok, it's not.